Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Tier 10 Premium Mercenary Tank Destroyer, the Ruthless. Now the Ruthless is a tank destroyer, or a mercenary tank, sorry, that is built up of the TNH 105-1000 Czech Tier 8 heavy tank hull, the E4 turret, which is slightly worse because it's actually got a worse gun mantlet than the E4, and the 183mm gun that is on the 4005 and the Death Star. Now, the elephant in the room, I hate the fact that they've released another big gun Alpha TD. That is just, it's so irritating. And even worse, they released it as the Ultimate Pass tank yet again, like they did with the Centurion AVRE, right? If they were going to release this tank like this, it either had to be just purely paid for, or if it was going to be free, it should have been in the Season Pass, so that instead of it being like the first day and for 2 to 3 weeks, the matchmaker is just literally like 7 a team. It would slowly but surely get built up in people playing the tank as they earned it. They just didn't learn from the mistakes with the AVRE. That's all I can say. I don't understand I can't understand that they saw the reaction to the AVRE and thought, yes, let's build another tank that's fairly similar, right? I don't know why. In terms of performance, I think this is probably on the lower end, if I'm honest, of these big gun TDs. I feel like it's a better version of the Death Star, but it's worse than an AVRE. I mean, the 4005 in terms of its gun capacity is a far better tank than this is, especially with the DPM that the buff 4005 has. There is a lot of flaws to this tank, which makes it not that great, honestly, which is quite nice to face, but it's just not nice to face because it's got a big-ass gun, which just means that one of these will probably still drive around a corner, delete you, and that's that, right? But for me, like I say, in terms of, I don't want to say in terms of game health, because it's really bad for game health that they release another tank like this. It's just the proliferation of big guns at Tier 10 is getting ridiculous, right? And releasing this was just a ridiculous move, and God knows why they did it. Money. So, yeah, it's like... Why? Why is what I say for the Ruthless. But yeah, it's basically a better version of the Death Star, but worse than the AVRE and the 4005, if I'm honest. But the 4005 is that consideration of how the gun performs as opposed to the actual tank, because obviously it's a different playstyle because it's not got armor, the 4005. But yeah, it's not going to be like the AVRE, which was crazy in the fact that it could drive around a corner, bounce all the shots, and then delete you anyway. Whereas this thing, if it drives around a corner and deletes you, most of the time, everything else will absolutely delete it. It's not infallible, which is the thing. If they hadn't released the AVRE, this would have been an absolute nuisance to fight, but it wouldn't have been that bad. But the thing is, it's going to calm down from 5, 6, 7 tanks in a game, because that's the way it is with the Ultimate Pass release. It's always like that with every Ultimate Pass tank, that it ends up being 5, 6, 7, 8 tanks in a game for like at least 2 weeks. But once that's calmed down, it'll probably end up being 1 or 2 in a game, like the AVRE is at this point. But the thing is, it'll be 1 or 2 in a game with the AVREs and with the 4005s and with the Tyrans. So it's like, you know, you're taking up probably 5, 6 slots with tank destroyers that also have absolutely huge guns, which is where the pain of this tank truly comes in. So, yeah. Without further... You know what? We've talked for long enough about the stupidness of that, though. Let's actually get into the tank for those that are interested in the tank and not my waffling about annoyances with it in generally and their way that they release it. So, the tank. Let's go into the statistics of it. So, as you can see, it's got a 750 horsepower engine with a 38 km/h top speed and a 12 km/h reverse speed. It's got 11.79 horsepower per ton, which means it does hit that 38 km/h speed top speed. English, it's hard. It does hit that 38 km/h top speed, but it's a little bit sluggish off the mark. The mobility of the tank isn't that great. It's, like I said, it's very akin. It's got the top speed of the 4005, but it's very akin to the Death Star in the way it moves. It's got 15% internal fire chance. I don't believe it. It gets set on fire all the time. That's my experience of it anyway. 2,000 hit points is a good slab to use. You know, it's always a great slab to use to trade, essentially. So you take one for 400, you deliver 1,400 or like 1,000, you know. You've got 28 degrees a second hull rotation speed, which is pretty slow. Like I say, it makes the whole tank generally feels a little bit sluggish with its mobility. 2.3 on soft, 1.5 on medium, 1.4 on firm. Also holds it back a little bit. It's not the worst, but it does hold it back a little bit. You've got 366 meters of steel concealment, which is not great. Again, I think that's very similar to the 4005. And at the end, after we've fully equipped it and stuff, we will compare it to the Death Star, the AVRE, and the 4005 with some of the statistics. You got a poor on the move camo as well at 391. You got 380 meters view range, which is okay for a tier 10 tank destroyer, but that means that there's a lot of tanks at tier 10 that will outspot you, so you just got to be very wary of that. And you don't have the good camo either, so it is going to be pretty easy to get outspotted, which is good. You've got 16 degrees a second on the turret traverse, which is pretty awful, so you probably want to run something like rapid aim to make this turret traverse better. You got 1.292 accuracy during rotation, which isn't that good, but for a big gun like this, yeah, it's not that bad. You definitely want to make this better with snapshot. You've got 6 degrees of gun depression, which is a pretty tall tank, so 6 degrees is meh. It's very meh. It's usable. It's not like this tank can't get the gun down on target. It's just there's a lot of areas where it might feel very awkward. It's got a 90-degree turret rotation, or sort of say yaw limit on the turret. So it's very much like the E4 and the 4005 in the fact that it can only turn its turret halfway around the tank. So if you do get after one of these, track it and get behind it, and therefore it won't be able to shoot at you. Unlike the AVRE, which can just turn its full turret everywhere. You've got a 33-second reload, which is, like I say, I think is actually the worst out of all these big alpha guns. You've got 1.82 rounds per minute rate of fire with that 2093 DPM. Like I say, I'm pretty sure that's actually the worst out of all these 183s or these big 1450 alpha guns. You've got 0.4 accuracy, which is not that good either, which you can knock down with steady aim and stuff like that. I mean, even in the 6.0 world, it's still pretty accurate, but it derps a fair amount too, which is a frustration, just like all the other 183s. You've got 3.5 accuracy during movement, which is, again, not very good, but you can knock that down with all the gun perks and run and gun. You've got a 3.1 second aim time as well, which is not that great, and you might want to try and knock that down with a GLD or something if it really irritates you. I don't, but it's down to you, and you can make that better with stuff like Born Leader. You do get 20 rounds of ammo as well, just like the other 183s too. You've got 310mm of pen on your AP, which is glorious and means you can pen so many things in because you've got a 183mm gun as well. There's so many plates that you do overmatch with this AP round, so it's absolutely fantastic, just like the other 183s. You do have 230mm of Hesh pen. English is hard. I don't know what I was trying to do there. Hesh pen. You have 230 Hesh pen, which is lower than the other Hesh tanks. They have 240, this has 230. So there's actually quite a few plates where you're not quite going to pen it. The lower plate of an E100, for example, with 240 Hesh pen, you might actually go through that when it's flat. With 230, it probably won't go through 50% of the time. So it's actually lower than the other 183s. I mean, tier 8s are still boned. Tier 9s might still get boned. But tier 10s, especially the more heavier tanks, won't suffer as badly for that, but it's still something that's you're still going to get slapped for 1450 half the time. You've got 1,150 damage on the AP, 1,450 on the Hesh, just like the 183s, and 1,650 on the standard HE, which is why I take 2, because you can actually splash damage for far more with that. And also, if you come against Waffle E100s and 4005s, you can deal some significant damage to those tanks. I did 1,932 earlier on to 1 with it, which was hilarious. And you've got 830 meters a second of shell velocity on all 3 rounds, which is pretty derpy, like I say, to go with your 0.4 accuracy and 3.1 second aim time. It doesn't have any bonuses because it is a tier 10 premium, and like I say, they just generally don't have any bonuses. So if they were to buy them for full price, absolutely never worth it. But if you want to buy it for 6,000 gold in the Ultimate Pass like it is, yeah, pretty much, always. So in terms of equipment on the Ruthless, I run with food. I run the Advanced Loader, the ammo swapper because of how good all 3 shell types are, and optics because, like I say, you want to be able to spot for yourself. You will get out spotted very easily. You want to make it better for yourself. But if you decide, you know what, I want to just go full Hesh, full of memes, run a GLD, because that way you will knock your aim time down quite significantly, which will be very nice. Or you could run the traction system to get faster, because I mean you'll go at 41 kilometers an hour at that point, but to be honest, you do struggle. You know, the top speed is something that it doesn't always hit on certain terrains, so you might not want to do that, right? There's multiple different ways you can set up a tank. Like, you could run vents as well, or you could run a camo net and really knock the... I mean, if I was to put a camo net on, look, the the actual camo goes down to 306 meters, which isn't that bad, realistically, for such a big TD. So there's multiple ways you can set that up. And in terms of a crew, I have slapped it in the Nemesis. Let's get that across here into the Ruthless. And let's have a look at that crew. So I do run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Rapid Aim, Steady Aim, Snapshot, and Run and Gun. These 3 gun perks, because I want to make this gun as good as it humanly can be. Rapid Aim, to make the turret traverse better, because like I say, it is slow as 16 degrees a second, so I just make it that little bit better. I mean, 10% better on is going to be 1.6 degrees a second, which isn't a big thing. But it's nice to have it a little bit better. But again, there's multiple things you could do. You could run Deadeye for the AP memes and, you know, make it better. You could run clutch braking to make your track traverse better, make it at 30 kilometers an hour instead, 30 degrees a second, sorry. Make that better. You could run camo to have that TD effect to make the camo better. Off-road driving to make the ground resistances not affect the mobility too much. You could run armor angling to negate the amount of damage coming into you so that you can trade more effectively. There's multiple ways to set up a tank. This is just a template, right? It's not always the right way to set up a tank. It's completely down to you and how you want to play the game, essentially. If my controller wants to reconnect, that would be very kind of it. Please, controller. There we go. So, yeah, that's how I set up the Ruthless. Let's have a quick look at how it is. Oh, you know what, actually, that's the thing. Look at this gun mantlet. This is the E4 turret, right? So it's got a 203 on the top on this cupola on top here. You've got 254 on these turret cheeks. And you've got 254 also on the gun mantlet with nothing behind it, which is weaker than an E4. So if we were to go to tier 10 and on the E4, which I feel like the filters aren't working properly, you go to over here and go to the armor viewer, sorry. Here we are. 305 on the E4's gun mantlet. So that's, 50 meters better. On the turret cheeks, it's 254, same as it is 203 on that cupola. So the gun mantlet is actually weaker on the Ruthless. That's something to bear in mind. That if you're firing high pen APCR, you can just go straight through the gun mantlet. If you're firing high pen heat, it's still the same as well. You can go through the turret cheeks of the E4, just like you can on the Ruthless. But the hull armor is absolutely tragic and will get butchered too. So let's have a quick look at the fully equipped stats. So as you can see here, we've managed to get our ground resistances down to 2.12, 1.38 and 1.29. That's just because of Born Leader and stuff. You got 486 meters of view range now, which is fine. You'll spot a lot of tanks with that, which is decent. Like I say, you still will get outspotted a decent amount too, but at least you won't get significantly outspotted. You've got 19.46 turret rotation speed now, which is better than the 16, which is good. You've got 1.6 accuracy during rotation now, which is down from that 1.9. You've got a 24-second reload now, instead of the 33, because you've knocked it down with Rapid Aim and the Advanced Loader, Born Leader, etc. And food as well. Food is a big factor in that. You've got 0.32 accuracy instead of 0.4 now. 2.49 accuracy during movement, so it's locked a whole 1 off the accuracy during movement, having run and gun. You've got 2.85 second aim time as well, instead of 3.1, which is still very slow. And it does bloom out quite a lot too, so that's something to bear in mind. Like I say, that's why you might want to knock something up and make it better, right, with GLD. So just remember that, 0.32 accuracy, 24-second reload, and a 2.85-second aim time. So we're going to go have a look at the Death Star. And the Death Star has a 20.42-second reload, so it's 4 seconds faster in reload. It's only 0.1 better in accuracy, but it's also 0.3 better on its aim time. So the Death Star, in terms of its gun performance, is way better. But I think in terms of the actual tank overall, I feel like the Ruthless just plays just that little bit nicer than the Death Star does these days. But, I mean, it's only fairly new, so it's still time will tell, right? And in terms of the 4005, if we have a look here, you've got a 19.69 second reload, so it's nearly 5 seconds better. In terms of the reload, it's 0.2 better on the accuracy and a 2.39 aim time as well, as opposed to the 2.89 second aim time that you have on the Ruthless. And as you can see with the view range is better as well. The camo is not though, the camo is still tragic compared to it. It's very comparable to the Death Star in terms of, look, 360 meters of still concealment, which is the same as the Ruthless. Well, actually it's better than the Ruthless by 6. You get the point. It's very, 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 very much like the Death Star in a lot of ways. And in terms of the AVRE over here, with its 1400 alpha, you've got 18.9 second reload, which is even better than all of them. You got better, well, actually, no, you've got worse accuracy with this setup. You've got 2.3 second aim time, though, which is better. But you have better gun depression over the side and stuff like that. You also have better armor as well. And, yeah, it's just better view range, better mobility, better camo. You know, the AVRE is a flat-out way better tank than the Ruthless. But, yeah, like I say, if the AVRE didn't exist, it would be irritating that they brought in the Ruthless just because it's another big gun, and the proliferation of big guns at tier 10 is annoying. But would it be a terrible thing that it's there once it's finally, you know, once we've got past the season pass matchmaking hell that happens every time we get Ultimate Pass. Once we got past that, which is still annoying that it breaks the game that much, it wouldn't be that horrific to face, because yes, of course, it would still smash you for a lot, but it would be just like dealing with another Death Star on 4005, and we all know how to deal with those things. You know, once you get up against them, they're pretty damn easy to take out. It's just annoying when one does catch you, and yeah, it's one of those things. Like I say, I think like this isn't actually that good of a tank. It's just got the meme factor of slapping very, very hard, and once the matchmaking's calmed down, it's not going to be too bad to face. It's just another big gun, which again is very, very irritating, and I wish they would stop making tanks with this. I mean, I have no idea who thought it was a good idea to do this, but there we go. So without further ado, I'm going to send you all to the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, you know, just generally get a feel for it. But I mean, like I say, if you've played the Death Star, you will know exactly how this tank handles. So like I say, it plays basically like the Death Star and is probably a little bit better just because of the front mounted turret and the ability to use the extra degree of gun depression and stuff like that, even though the gun handling, the DPM, etc. is actually way worse than the Death Star 4005 and AVRE, etc. So as always, everybody, I will see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Ruthless, and I've got 3 replays for you because generally everybody should know how this kind of tank is going to handle. And that is that you play the peekaboom lifestyle because that's just the way you've got to be, and just deliver the pain train where you can. And try not to be the focus of attention, and try not to get caught out. Because honestly, if you end up being one tank versus another, and you derp your shot, which happens a decent amount, because this gun is fairly derpy at times, and you derp your shot, you're going to have like 24 seconds of sitting there waiting to reload, and they can farm your whole tank very, very quickly. Because this tank basically has no armor. That's the way to put it. The turret armor is good enough that if you are obviously hull down, that you can ricochet quite a few shots, because the cupola is exactly like the E4, that it just, yeah, it bounces stupid shots. Even premium from tier 10s a lot, which can be irritating to fight against, just like the E4. But like I said, the gun mantler, I've had quite a few, and especially other Ruthlesses fire AP straight through the front of it, and through the turret cheeks too, which can be a little bit annoying. But the the hull armor is complete garbage and gets absolutely trashed. The only thing... Oh, pest control at your service. Sorry. Yeah, the only thing about the hull is the fact that you do have spaced armor on it, on the side and on the rear. And the reason I'm saying that for significance points is that for the amount of Ruthlesses out there, and for the amount of people that are probably going to pick this tank up purely because it's got this 183mm gun, if you're firing Hesh at another Ruthless, if you fire at the ass or the side of the Ruthless and don't pen it with Hesh, it's not because of anything malicious, it's purely because you probably hit the spaced armor, and the spaced armor just doesn't get penned. Because I've had a couple of times where I've shot these things in the side and in the rear, and it's just gone like 400 damage. And you're like, what? And, you know, realistically, you know, you hit the spaced armor. But it is a peekaboom lifestyle. It's very feast or famine. Some games you're going to find where people ignore you. You can just dish out so much damage. But in other games where people do focus you, there's very limited chance to actually get shots in. And especially for the games that are far quicker, if you miss shots like that, you basically get no chance whatsoever to do anything. and you miss most of the chances. Because you can see, we missed that shot on that M46 Pattern KR because I wanted to snap the Hesh round straight through the side of his turret, deal some big damage, and I missed my opportunity to do anything whatsoever because I snapped it, I missed, and therefore my team came and cleared up. We've now loaded the AP to go for the 53 TP, but he loses all of his hit points to the Emil... Was it the Emil 2 or is it Cranvar that's next to me? One of the two. He loses all of his hit points to him, so we switched to the standard Hesh so that we could just splash him and kill him. Now, I do have the standard Hesh on this tank naturally because it has bigger damage. So if it has 1650 alpha, it is going to splash for a lot more. Where I might splash for 4,500 with the premium Hesh, which obviously can have more chance of penning, I might splash for 6,700. Right, with the standard, sorry. And then there's even going against other tanks like 4005s and waffly 100s and other tanks that are just very lightly armoured as well. That means that you will guaranteed dish out massive damage. Like I say, it's not in these replays, but I do have a clip somewhere of hitting a 4005 that was unsuspecting for 1900. Because that's, you know, the rolls for that Hesh round, that standard Hesh round is a lot. And obviously we bounced off a T32 there with our 310mm of pen because we hit the right top of his armour, which is a pain. We drive out sideways on in front of a Ruthless, and I thought maybe he's focusing on my teammates, but unfortunately he was locked and loaded, ready to go, and he ended up shooting me in the side for a lot. And now I'm on 556 HP, which is not good because I'm going against a 60 TP here and a Death Star, which is not going to go well for me if either of them hit me. But the 60 TP ends up driving sideways on and giving me a lovely shot with AP into his side. We get very lucky to bounce the ISU there. I have no idea where he hit us, but he should have guaranteed gone straight through us there, unless he was firing AP from the standard Derp gun, which people do for some reason. That was probably the only other chance that he could have of actually bouncing him. Actually, he did 390 alpha. 390, I should say. He must have been stock with the 122mm gun, because that's the only shot I bounced. We load the standard HE here. Get fairly lucky that the 60 TP doesn't hit us, but we slam the HE round and finish him off. Now the Death Star is coming after us, and I'm like, nope, 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 Mr. Death Star, go away. I don't want what you're selling. So what we're going to do is we're going to make use of this rock, and this is, again, possibly where being against a Death Star, having that front-mounted turret is a little bit nicer. He's coming after us, and I thought, maybe I'll reload by the time he gets round. I mistimed it a little bit, and thankfully for me, he ended up slapping, I think, an AP round into my gun. And we get exceptionally lucky to be alive there. That Death Star should have killed us. I just mistimed that. I thought, oh yes, this is perfect. He's going to just come YOLO in round for me, and I'm just about going to reload in time to shoot him. And we reloaded a split second too late. But yeah, thankfully we got lucky. He hit our gun, and he didn't manage to kill us. But unfortunately for me, there is only one heavy tank left on the enemy team. He's on the opposite side of the map, and he's starting to get swarmed by our TD and our heavy tank, which means that, yeah, sadly, I'm not going to get there to get any more shots off. But we do end up finishing with 5 kills and 3.9k damage. And that's the thing, obviously, with this type of gun as well, as you all well know, because there is plenty of them in this game now, which is annoying. I'll keep saying how annoying it is that there's a great proliferation of them. That if you miss your shots with this tank, half the time you are going to be waiting an age to reload, and by the time you're ready to reload or ready to fire, pretty much the tank that's in front of you has lost all of its hit points. So if you have a pretty decent team, you're just not going to get much done because, yeah, you got a slow reload, your gun's fairly derpy, you've got to give yourself time to make sure that this gun is aimed in because, like I say, it does take an age to aim. So you have to make sure that the gun is aimed in to be able to dish out that damage. And if you fire too soon, like you saw with the M46 Pattern KR, it's going to miss because it's a derp gun, and that is the way it goes, and that is the way that it handles. At least for me, with this Ruthless, they didn't bring it in and give it pretty much the same stats as the Death Star or the 4005 and go, here you go, you've got the same, you know, the 183 gun with the exact same stats as the Death Star or 18, you know, the 4005, which is probably too good, if we're honest, in terms of its gun stats. And you've now got a very good E4 turret with the TNH 105-1000 hull, which is pretty useless, except for it can, you know, it's got angles, it's got some armour, so against Tier 8 you might be able to ricochet shells off the hull, but not guaranteeing it. And yeah, you got armour. The fact that it reloads like 4 or 5 seconds slower than the other two is great. The fact that it's derpier is great. It's just, they didn't need to make it. They didn't need to make this tank at all. It's just, why? Why did they do it? Who knows? I mean, they could have even chosen these same components, but not the 183, right? And picked something like, I don't know, the IS-7 gun instead. And made it a heavy tank. A bit of a dodgy heavy tank, but you get the point. They could have done so many other things with this combination, and just avoided using the 183mm gun. It's just, I don't get the logic. There is no logic in this tank whatsoever in terms of thought process of release, right? You see the reaction to the AVRE, how toxic the AVRE is for the game, and it is realistically toxic for the game. Play at tier 10, and especially for tier 8s that are grinding and tier 9s that are grinding. You see that reaction to the AVRE and think, yes, you know what, let's do it. It's just, yeah, I don't get it whatsoever. So as you can see so far, we are on the second map. And the second map, or second game I should say, we are on Great Wall. And we've managed 1384 damage so far because we fired a Hesh round straight through the upper plate of another, well actually I think it went through the lower plate of another Ruthless, which is great. And I'm just teasing with the idea here of going after this Ruthless, and now he's not looking at me at all, so I think, yeah, okay, RBRT, Hesh round into the side of the Ruthless, it's going to go straight through, right? Now, as you can see, we hit the spaced armor, so we only did 400 damage. That's what I'm talking about, aim properly. I should have aimed there, gone and aimed properly and gone for the side of that guy's turret. And unfortunately for my friend, that meant that my friend actually died. But the Ruthless has killed the other Ruthless, because there's a lot of Ruthlesses. And that meant that we are guaranteed going to be ready to kill this guy. So we end up shutting down the Ruthless. We know there's a TD at F2. And we know our team has pushed through in that northern sector. So I'm thinking, you know what, okay, I'm going to go through and try and shoot the guys that are at D4 and help my team in this northern sector. And I can get safe from the tanks that are clearly going to be coming from JK line and start helping the team up north. But we are too late. We can't get away from this T-57 Heavy. So I decided, okay, Hesh through this T-57 Heavy, it's going. We slam the 15-19, straight through the T-57 Heavy's turret, do a hell of a lot of damage. He ends up penning us quite easily with the heat rounds that he's got. And now we are reloading. And at this point, I'm thinking, well, I'm screwed. I'm absolutely boned. There is no way I'm surviving this. I've just got to dish out as much damage as I can to try and make it so that my team can at least, you know, deal with the threat. We see this Jagdpanzer. We've got cover on our right from the dead wreck. And 1526 straight through the side of the Jagdpanzer's hull armor or superstructure. And that puts us on to 5,039 damage, and at this point, I'm definitely dead. So the choice is, what do I go for? Do I go for Hesh or AP? One of these two Ruthlesses is getting it before he gets me. And the choice is, what do I do? Because I can pen them both with Hesh, but it depends on the angle he comes for. So I decide, you know what, screw it. We're going with AP to guarantee the pen, and we actually hit the upper plate, so if we'd done Hesh, we probably wouldn't have penned that. And we end up with 6.3k damage. And we do, unfortunately, end up with a defeat in that second game, because yeah, they just managed to do us all in there. We finished with the high caliber, 646 base XP on loss. Not the best base XP, but it's pretty damn nice damage game in the Ruthless. Again, just shows off what the tank's capable of. It shows off what all big gun tanks are capable of. Because let's say it's just another big gun tank. For me, as I'm describing it, it is basically a Death Star. But I feel like it's slightly kinder to play. Slightly nicer to play. It just has way worse gun stats than a Death Star. In terms of DPM at least anyway, and aim time. But you get a front-mounted turret, and you get a pretty damn nice turret in fact anyway. Goodbye, Mr. Wheelie Boy. Good night, sir. Good night, Mr. Tier 8. You had a good time. And this, in fact, is the best replay that I've had in the tank. It's the best score I've had anyway. And it's also probably one of the luckiest games I've ever played too. And that's because I do some really stupid stuff in this game and somehow we get away with it. I don't know. It's this game sometimes, okay? It just happens. It is what it is. So we're on Heilbronn. And on Heilbronn, we have come to this middle area. Like I say, you've already seen, we've one-shot that EBR for 950 damage. I don't know what he was thinking coming around that far on the rock. He was like, I'm Wheelie Boy, I go quickly. You don't go as quick as my 183mm shell of doom. And he was out of the game. He clearly just didn't want to play with all the Ruthlesses. That's what it is. He saw it and went, nope, not doing that. And got himself blown up. So we're just watching what's going off in the middle. We can see how aggressive people are being and nothing is getting spotted. The light tank is at E9. He's only just spotted something. Now the TD's pushed up quite aggressively too. We switched to Hesh and I'm like, okay, further side of that Death Star, we're going to do some significant damage. Someone else got there first. We should have just fired AP and we'd have done damage. But we also ended up just missing the shot on the Death Star altogether because, like I say, that's what this gun is like at range. It loves to miss shots because that's just the 183 in general. The 183 is pure RNG. It's like, sometimes it's the best thing it's the best thing since sliced bread sometimes, and it will hit every shot you want to hit. You'll do some crazy damage, and you'll look at the game going, whoa, okay. You know, especially with some of the pens you get as well, filthy. And then the other times, it'll be like, nah, you know what, I'm just going to miss that shot. So, see there, I was aiming for above where that ridgeline was, and the shell just went, you know, I'm going to dip into the floor. Because that's what the 183 gun does. And especially with the worst stats that this thing has too. That's what it does. So now, we're loaded, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, screw it, I'm going to move down into the dip, because this is where I want to be. So we start moving down, we end up spotting the Ruthless. We get so lucky that Ruthless only tracked us. His shot must have gone extremely low. He ends up getting hit for a lot as well, which gives us some assistance. There's now the T-28, so I'm just going to use this building to keep me covered between me and the T-28. And then hopefully, when I've reloaded, I can AP him through the lower plate and shut down that Tier 8 TD. We got extremely lucky there that Ruthless managed to only track us, because we would have lost 1,000 hit points quite easily. But yeah, we got very, very fortunate. I was just hoping that maybe in between his reload, he wouldn't poke out in time and I'd be able to get down to this dip, no problem. But again, we got very lucky that we actually... That's luck number one, that we managed to not take too many hits. Then we spot the Death Star, and the medium is like, oh god, that's a Death Star. Thank you, RNG. On the move. Slap the shell, straight in, shut down the Death Star. I went, oh god, the Death Star's come over. To be honest, I thought that those two guys would be up there, and I thought I might spot the medium, but I didn't think the Death Star would just be sitting there. Neither did I think the Death Star might just pull forward and drive out to try and shoot me. So we get very lucky there that the shell actually flies in. The T-28, oh, he's very stock as well. We end up switching using the ammo swapper again. This is why I love the ammo swapper. Switching with the ammo swapper to the AP, penning the T-28 straight through the lower plate. I poke round the corner to see if that if that Ruthless is there, but he's not getting spotted at this point. They've won the town. We ended up getting hit by artillery as well, which is not handy. But they win the town quite handily down that one line. So I decided, okay, I don't want to be anywhere near that town because they're all going to come running up this, across, down the sea line, etc. And they're going to have easy shots at me. I don't want that. We need to get out of Dodge. So we're going to now push over and see if we can spot anything that is sitting at C0. And yet again, because of how people are moved up and stuff, I'm thinking, well, if there's anything still up there, it might be spotted, right? I don't know. Let's just take the risk, because I can duck into the ridge on my left if I can, or I can push into the rocks if I need to. We've seen shells coming from up there, so we know there is something up there. The Centauro ends up... Well, we got into a position where I could have shot the Centauro, but he ends up getting shut down, and we just need to keep pushing. We know there's shots coming from our left, up above. We end up getting the artillery spotted up. The medium tank spots him. We switch to the standard HE because we don't need the premium Hesh to go through that guy. And we shut down the artillery. We're up to 3,000 damage with 1,050 assistance. Now, my brain goes, okay, I want to be on the other side of this ridgeline over here so I can move up safely up the 9 line through the little path that you're going to see in a minute. And that way I can start shooting things that are camping at B7. But what I didn't account for, and what my stupidity is the fact that I'm driving now up on top of a ridgeline in front of all these TDs. And it's like, oh god, that's a Ruthless. Oh, thank god he snapped his shot and missed. Oh, goodness me, at least I'm safe and I can get across, right? And it's like, oh no, there's another Ruthless. Oh, thank god they didn't quite have the shot into me. That was exceptionally lucky, because I should have died. Yep, should have died. Should have died. But you take the rough with the smooth, and we're going to make the most of the mistakes and try our best to up our damage. Because at the minute we're a pretty mediocre total of 3,000 and 1,050 assistance. We know there's a chisel on the right. We know that there's all those tanks that are sitting at B8. And again, using this little path, there's little ridges I can poke out quite safely and play that peek-a-boom game. Play that peek-a-boom game, slap in the big Hesh rounds, because again, we know the Ruthlesses, and we know that it's a 430. We can pen all of those with the 230 pen Hesh, and we can deal some significant damage. I'm not expecting the chisel to come after me, because if he does, it's just going to be death. And there's the first target, the Ruthless. We slap the Hesh round straight through the Ruthless, 1232, and get rid of him. I didn't expect this chisel to do it, but I was like, okay, if this guy comes after me, he's dead, because I've got all these guys behind me. He ends up ramming me, put himself down to a one-shot. I pull back, and one of the guys that's behind me shuts him down, because that was just always going to happen. Like, again, I'd never expected him to do that, because I thought, well, he's just dead the moment he does. But he puts me down to 559, which is within a splash, which is not good. The 430's chasing after my medium tanks, so we slap a big Hesh round through the back of the object 430 there for 1400. Puts us on to 6.1k damage with 1300 assistance. Now there's only 3 tanks left. There's a Diamondback and 2 Ruthlesses, which again, we're within range of a standard HE splash of a Ruthless, which is not good. Naturally, the AP round will kill us no matter what, and the Hesh round, if it pencils, will kill us no matter what. We can actually survive a standard Hesh... No, sorry. A premium Hesh round. We can actually survive a premium Hesh round if it does splashes. But we don't want to be in that situation. So we see where this Diamondback is. I was thinking maybe he was in a position I could shoot it, so we switched to the standard HE, just so that, you know, I could splash it for a good amount and kill it. But it's like, okay, we're going to go try and find the Ruthless. Where is their last 2? We know that there was one spotted at, like, F4 earlier on, and we don't know where the other one is. So I'm like, okay, let's go find it. Oh, God, there he is. Oh, that's not good. Oh, no. Okay, we're going to switch to AP, try and pen his cupola. We bounce, and thank goodness he's firing Hesh. That means he only does splash damage to us, and we are very lucky. Once again, the luck in this game, we're very lucky to be alive. And that's what it's like firing at the cupola as well, of an E4 in general. We fired the AP for 310 pen, and we bounced. We switched to the Hesh round. He keeps driving up for some reason. 1545 through the lower plate. Ouch. And we're up to 7.6k damage with 1300 assistance. And it's like, please shut down the Ruthless. And there he goes. He is gone. There's only one tank left on the enemy team. It is the other Ruthless. We're very fortunate to have the damage we've got and be alive. But it's like, okay, let's go find him. There he is. We've got the Hesh round in. He's on 942 hit points. We switch to the AP to guarantee the pen, and it goes straight through his upper plate and finishes him off. And we finish the game with 6 kills, 8.6k damage, 1300 assistance. A really nice game for the Ruthless. It's a pretty good game for a 183mm gun. Ace Tanker Top Gun, the high caliber, and 1786 base XP. Again, I'll say a pretty damn nice game for the Ruthless. A tank that they really didn't need to add whatsoever. 6,000 gold. Always worth 6,000 gold. If you don't want to bother grinding for the Death Star, you can get the same experience with the Death Star, in the Ruthless. But I just wish they hadn't added it, if I'm totally honest. If the AVRE didn't exist, maybe this would have been like, oh, okay, I see what they've done. Really annoying, but yeah, sure, whatever. But proliferation of big guns is annoying. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!